He needs all the tablets, said SK. Did I hear that right? He was asking Dale, but Livvy could see that Dale hadn't heard. They had decided to regroup in Livvy's hotel room, though it had taken several minutes to clean up the disarray. At some point, Dale had picked up the plastic ice bucket and then stood there, staring at it. Now he set it down on the small table near the window and moved the curtain aside as if he were waiting for someone. Livvy thought she knew who. "He'll be back," she said quietly. Dale dropped the curtain and looked at her. "He's upset now," she said, "but he'll be back." "I wish I could believe that," he said, "but after what happened..." He grimaced and glanced at SK. "I'm not saying you deserve him," Livvy said, "but honestly, Leon doesn't seem like the kind of person who could stay mad forever, even if he tried." Dale thought about it for a second, and then he nodded. He looked around the room and seemed to just now realize the cleanup was done. "The tablet," he said. "The tablets," corrected SK. "You said Celestino needs all the tablets to bring about the fifth world, along with several other things that need to happen." "Right," said Dale, frowning a little. SK came around the corner of the bed to face them both as Livvy sat down on the end. "Then let's get through the list," SK said. "Let's try to control what we can instead of chasing after what we can't." He looked at Livvy and then Dale. "Maybe we don't need the tablets." "I do," Livvy said, looking at SK. "We do." She reached out to him, and he took her hand, though he looked puzzled. She explained how she'd gotten the tablet and what had been inscribed on it. "Tawa?" Dale said. "Here in the real world." "It's not as strange as it sounds," SK said. He turned to her and studied her face. "A lightning shaman and a dwarf?" "I'm sure of it, SK." Dale sat down in the chair next to the table, shaking his head. "It's not that easy," he said. "And I'm not trying to spoil it for you, but these tablets have been debated for generations. You see lightning and a dwarf, and someone else will see, I don't know, a staircase and a child." Livvy looked at him. "Then why me?" she asked. "Why me, of all people, to find that tablet?" She looked to both of them for an answer. Dale apparently had none. "Because I was meant to find it," she said. "Not keep it or know anything about this prophecy. But there's something in that tablet, some meaning in those symbols that I think has to do with us." She glanced at SK. "Some meaning," Dale repeated. "If you don't know what it means, and I'm not even sure it's lightning, who's going to tell you what it means?" "Well, I was just about to go ask him when Celestino showed up." "Tawa," SK said. "Tawa," she said, nodding. Dale crossed his arms over his chest and stared at the floor. "Well," he said slowly, "if anybody could tell us about the tablets, you'd think it'd be a Kachina." He shrugged and looked up at Livvy. "And you'd think if there was a Kachina who knew about them, it'd be Tawa." He looked at SK and continued. "I may not take the prophecy literally, but whoever has the tablets is going to hold power. I don't want that to be Celestino. Besides," he said with a smirk, "I'd like to see the look on his face when he finds out we've taken it back." There was quiet for a moment. "SK?" Livvy asked. He took in a breath. Livvy knew they'd thrown a lot at him in a short period of time. "We're in the middle of something," SK began. "You know that," he said, looking at her, "and," he continued cautiously, "it doesn't feel like a coincidence." He slowly shook his head. "But a stone tablet with a lightning shaman and a dwarf?" he said to her. "The end of the world as we know it?" He said to Dale, "I don't see how we can turn away." He looked back at her. "I'd like to know what that tablet means." Livvy squeezed his hand. "But," he continued, "I want you to think twice about this, Liv." He looked into her eyes. "You know I'll support you, but it's not up to me. It's going to be you in the multiverse and you with Tawa. It's going to be you that Celestino will blame." Dale began to protest, but SK held up a hand. "He's already singled you out. We can't help Dale without getting that tablet." He paused. "But it has to be your call." Livvy looked at her arm and remembered the poison quill. The decision to accept the tablet from Tawa had nearly cost her life. Then she looked at SK's hand holding hers. "I've made the call," she said. SK nodded and looked at Dale. "So we find Celestino," SK said. "We find the tablet." Dale shook his head. "I don't even know where he meets with his supporters. They've kept a well-guarded secret." "He's keeping a secret like that up here?" asked Livvy. "That's just it," Dale said. He's not on the mesas, otherwise we would know. Then how do we find him? Livvy asked. Not us, Dale said. You.